It looks different though this time.
It does. Even more bleached.
Hey mate, how you doing?
Very good. 10 out of 10. How's it with you?
Yeah, I'm good. Very busy day, but it was fun to work on the project, right? How was your first FTMO week? Was the first week, right?
Indeed, it was the first live week. I have the account already for, I think, 2.5, 3 weeks or so, but I really only got time like a week ago. It was good. I mean, we realized profits, and let's see where the next 2, 3, 4 weeks are leading to. So far,
I
I
find
think I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, we back tested it a lot, so we pretty much know what we can expect. So far, so good. So far, so good.
I find so funny that everyone wants to pass a funding challenge and then just dive in, take trades, and do all of that, and you are like, yeah, I passed it 3 weeks ago. Found some time to set things up, and I'm slowly trading.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a weird approach, especially in this industry, right?
Yeah, I think I mean, especially when you look at like some of providers who promise you to make the challenge and the verification phase like within 2, 3, or like in the minimum days, like in a week. Uh,
Hmm.
for sure, you don't really have a strategy to go also on the actual account, and then you just leverage and you try your luck and you just try to make the first out payment, and then that's it, pretty much. I guess a lot of people also lose the actual FTMO account after a month or so because there's
Yeah,
too. First of all, they don't have a strategy, and then they just go full bonkers. So yeah,
yeah. Like last episode we talked about is like go for the fast payout or go for the consistent long term growth and those consistent payouts, right? And use that money to buy new funding accounts.
yes, exactly. Talking about consistency, you're already in this industry, so to say, for quite a while, right?
Yeah, man. This sometimes you look back on it and think it has been so many years. Like I started in high school when I was 15 or 16. I remember sitting there in class and a friend of mine sitting next to me. You're always with buddies, right? Sitting, especially in high school, it's always two at the table, right? And he was asking like, "What the hell are you doing? What is this?" And I told him, "Yeah, have 2 grand, which was back then a lot of money to start trading with, especially on that age, right?" I was 15 or 16, had to open a trading account, not even under my name, use family accounts and all of that. And then I blew that account in the first week. And I remember just sitting there on my bed thinking like, okay, I can do 2 things, never do this again, or just learn about what I did. And then a friend of mine, well, you know, Joost, he gave me a book because I met him like a couple months before that. And he gave me a book like Forex for Beginners. Started reading that. If I look back on it, it was very basic. You don't learn like how to trade in just one book or anything like that. But it was fun, and I just decided to think like, okay, take the lessons. Let's open a demo account and just see how it goes. And from there, I think 1 or 2 years later, I really found that mentor, and from there, it was just learning how to invest, how finance and money in general works, not even the trading part, but just passive investing, the stuff we also talk about like the S&P, and just like if you don't want to trade, just do that, right? And then it was like, still I want to trade. I don't like to passively invest only. I want to really learn this craft. And yeah, that has been 10 years ago. It's
10
insane.
years, damn, a decade.
A decade, yeah. I think this year is the decade, yeah. It's
That's
ridiculous.
crazy. You say like this book Jos was giving you is quite basic, but it sounds already super niche and quite focused since it's about forex, right? Is there like a
Yeah.
particular reason why forex, or was it just randomness,
Mm,
or why forex?
yeah, pure randomness. Like we also traded like after doing FX, like we were introduced to FX first. Then it was oil. I think we traded oil futures and all of that. I even yeah, like software you had to buy was also pretty expensive back then, and really invested in that. And then we looked at it and was like, no, just go back to FX. It's way easier to just get started with that, right? In my opinion. So it was pure coincidence, in my opinion.
Oh, interesting. So it was random that you went to forex and then you stick to it because it's just better than stocks. It's better than. Why did you stick to it?
Mm,
Like, are there like particular reasons why forex? And I mean, you also build a business based on this, right? It's a very conscious
yeah,
choice.
yeah, true. It's a difficult question to think about because it was just you get started with that and you just want to learn about the markets, and then you don't just jump from stocks to crypto to FX. At least I didn't do that. So It was like, just stick to this until this works, and then we approach a different market, right? And now, after many years, stocks, I've never actively day traded that or anything like that, just passively investing. But crypto, that is like what we are doing right now, also actively with just algorithms, but also manual trading. And that, yeah, that took years to get introduced to that market, right? So it was just stick to FX, make it work, and then everything moved from there.
Yeah, pretty much sticking to one thing, right? Being really good
Yeah.
at this one particular thing and not switching between assets, strategies, and so on. Would you say like,
Yeah. Also, if you don't have that much capital, right, you just have to focus on one thing, and
mm,
the barrier of entry on FX is way lower than the rest, in my opinion. And getting it to work, it's like, it's not like you start trading. I didn't have a mentor at the start, right? Had no clue what to do. We were just together figuring things out. So it was not like, okay, I'm gonna learn this now. After a year, I'm gonna approach stocks. It was like, first year, no consistency. Second year, no consistency, right? And then slowly you get consistent, and then you get that funding. We went for the private route of funding instead of the FTMO challenges and all of that, because it didn't exist back then, so we didn't have a choice. And then it's, you don't tell your investors as well, like, okay, thank you for your money, now I'm going to trade this, but I'm also going to trade this on stocks and crypto, right? They're looking at you, wait, what? so
what is that
so then
doing?
you're more or less pushed in one direction,
Mm,
and if that works, why stop doing it, right?
definitely. So you got pretty much beaten 2 years by the markets, seeing no results.
Yeah,
And how
definitely.
important was then the mentor in this phase? Because I mean, 2 years is so long. You don't really see any money out coming out of it, or I don't know if this is like the your KPI, right? But how important was the mentor for you, and how did you find the person who is probably still mentoring you up to today?
No, the trading company doesn't exist anymore, but learned so much from it. Trading strategies were good. It was a very subjective trading strategy. So what I didn't like was, it was based on support and resistance for, well, you know how it works. You can draw lines everywhere, right? So the strategies, like how to enter, how to exit, what to target, and all of that, was super mechanical, and that provided that consistency, even though it took me a while to figure out like where to place those lines. And eventually I just evolved to my own style where that wasn't necessary anymore, that you can just not draw in those lines and use zones and all of that, and supply and demand strategies, all the techie stuff, right? Yeah, it just clicked for me regarding how to trade it. It just flowed in that direction, man.
Yeah. Was it also the reason, since you already mentioned now the trading company which doesn't exist anymore? Like maybe you can shine a little spotlight on this period. Sounds super interesting. I mean, because you were
Yeah,
also even
so
younger than today, trading, handling capital. I mean, there's a story to tell.
yeah, so just the weekly routine was, I was first at high school, then went to uni in The Hague, and during classes, during all of that, I was joining that community. So before I took the train, it was just live webinar. I believe it started at 6 in the morning, something like that. Watching that, trading live with them, and then you just got those setups, right? The only thing you had to manage was not miss a setup and get out of the markets when they were getting out of the markets, know what to target, and really watch all the trade recaps and all of that. And also, when I also just had work, right? So I had many small jobs. During those jobs, I was able to just open my laptop, also watch the webinars back then, and just backtest and do all of that. So I don't know. I just knew from an early age that this is what I decided to do. And now, of course, with our, well, the educational company we have, that's all based on trading. We are building the software company together, of course, but also with many others. And then I'm also building the fund, right? So all these things just connect with each other. And yeah, my whole routine was based on that. I already knew, okay, this is what I want to make work. This is what I want to do. And by just following that routine and just hopping in the webinars, hopping in, like, how do they trade? What can I improve? Because I figured out, like, not all the strategies are working for me even. It was like, okay, this strategy, if I just look at the data, this works for me because I don't miss that many setups. Because, like I always say, there are three reasons to not be consistently profitable. One is missing your trades due to your routine, right? And that one part is so important. If you're not at the charts, how do you take the trades, right? And then the second thing is, of course, confidence. If you see a setup, can you execute it? Some people fail to execute it. because they maybe took a lot of losses. And the third thing is knowledge. If you don't know how to take a trade or what a good setup is, of course you will never take it, even though you're sitting at the charts and you know what you can execute. So for me, it was just solving those three things. And by doing that, I was able to get consistent. Then I started with, I believe, 20K from an investor, my first investor. You know the investor. And that 20K was like ups and downs. And then I made, I think, 36%. And then it was like, okay, now we know what to do. And that was with one particular strategy of the three strategies I was trading. And I was like, okay, let's scale that up. We scaled it up to 100K, and the rest is the past. It's like, it's a pretty weird story, to be honest. I never shared it
Yeah,
here.
and it sounds also so easy, right? You're just like, yeah, and then
It wasn't.
started with 2K, then I got 20K from an investor, uh, fiddled around with it a little bit, then eventually made quite a good return. How did you reel in that person? Like, I mean, it means a lot of trust, right? Since you were how old back then when you got
Yeah.
this 20K?
Ooh, good question. I think it was 2018. I
21,
think.
20,
Yeah, 20ish. Yeah.
something like this. I mean, that's insane. And then you maintained the trust.
Yeah.
Uh, Do you think
Yeah,
what
but
did it take?
that's a pretty fun story actually. So what I did before knowing that was just look around in your network, and hopefully you have one entrepreneur or one successful person there. And some people have many, maybe their parents of that or family members. And for me it was like, okay, I don't have that. So can I find people that are successful, and can I just grab a coffee with them, tell them what I'm doing? And that was way before I made that return for myself, right? Way before I was consistent. I already shared, like, okay, I like the financial markets. I'm going to study in that direction. So it was not building trust straight away. It was like someone did spot, okay, he's doing that. And once in a while, I met that investor before he invested in me. And he did see that whole process of learning. So I think that was already the confidence required to start with that 20K. And then it was like, okay, now we need to really perform. And yeah, from there, it's not really a big leap from 20 to 100, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
For me, it was because back then I was very emotional with seeing the PL. It was like my dream is working in a sense. So you're very emotional about it. But nowadays, it's way different, right?
yeah. And it's a 10x, right? I mean, when you see the numbers, the lot size, your stop loss
Mm.
whatsoever, P&L, it's
Yeah.
a 10x, 2K to
I
20K.
I even traded like with 2% risk per trade to boost it.
I mean,
Yeah,
somehow you have to reel in these 36% or whatever you had, right? That's the way
yeah,
to go.
yeah.
It's
True.
super interesting that you
Yeah.
said you already got the capital you were looking for, getting that like money from other people before you actually had like consistency. Would you do it again like this? Was there like the learning?
Hmm.
Was it just you were just convinced and this conviction was perceived by other people?
Yeah. I Would I do it again? I think so. Yeah. I probably would do it exactly like this. Yeah, yeah. Because I'm grateful for all the lessons I learned. Right. I blew, like I said, I blew that first 2K account, like my savings back then. I just blew it in a week, or maybe even earlier. And from there, that lesson was required to be a little bit normal or cautious with the 20K account, right? And then the 100K, I over risked a little bit, in my opinion, but it worked out. I had some drawdown, came back to it, and then I just normalized it. Like, okay, don't go for this volatile equity chart. So a lot of lessons I learned. I'm grateful I have them, especially now with larger accounts or like a large sum of money to trade. Especially because most of the parts is other people's money, right? OPM. I'm grateful for these lessons. Otherwise, if I just had all the success at once, I think I would have made the risky, yeah, setups with too much capital, right?
Yeah,
And then you blow your reputation, and reputation is everything in this industry, in my opinion.
indeed. Yeah, I think there's a saying. I forgot the name of the book. It's a great book, but they talk about like the masters of the universe. You feel great, you over risk, and then you eventually
Yeah,
just lose it all.
get greedy.
Exactly. So now you made the step from 2K to 20K, and then you already mentioned you made a step from 20K to 100K. What is the
Yeah.
timeline? What was it like? How did you make that kind of
Oh,
step?
I think it was around 6 to 9 months from 20 to 100, something like
It's
that.
pretty quick.
Yeah, it was within a year, I believe, because we had sort of a little contract, and that contract was for a year or something. We tried to do it a little bit official, right? And I know that it was before the end of that contract, and then we just threw away the first one and just started again.
So you were something like 22 years old or so at this time when
Yeah,
you had the
yeah.
100K.
And then it was like the big thing I figured out is like, if we go back also to the other question, like what would I not do again or do again, is definitely finding like entrepreneurs or people around you with a big network, especially if you want to go to that route. Because if you can do it for one person and that person has friends, other rich friends in general, right?
Mm.
It's like you are more or less the person who you're hanging out with, right? Everyone knows the quote. So if you're then interested in just going for more investor capital, it's nice to have that one person and then scale from there. So that went pretty quick,
Was it hard though?
actually.
From 20 to 100 and then 100K plus, like in how you were,
Um,
were doing your thing.
yeah, regulation wise, all of that stuff, it became pretty serious, right? Setting up like the other company took like almost 2 years to just get the regulation done and
So you pretty much set up a
being
fund,
able
right,
to.
for managing that
Yeah,
money. Yeah.
yeah. That took a long time. You have so many rules. Like we only have like investors from the Netherlands, all the admin stuff. But luckily, there are a lot of companies that help you with setting all of that up.
Crazy. Nice. Would you suggest this to everyone who is like so convinced of doing it in that industry, or
Mm,
is it
well,
more of a
now you have
type?
funding companies as well. You have funding companies. Everyone should, if you want to build like funding privately as well, just build a track record like what we share, like the transparency. Also with Dari Next nowadays, that you can build a track record there, get funding there. FTMO, good one. Like go for building your own capital first, build that track record, and also go for funding companies. That's like the way to go nowadays, in my opinion. And
Definitely.
then you can also find private capital, but you need private capital as well, your own capital, to set up like a proper company. So you can also just better cash for yourself, build that private account, start some companies to boost that income, and invest that income and do it that way.
Oh,
That's the safe approach. I wouldn't recommend taking loans or anything like that and trade that capital. I know a lot of people did that or do that. It's not the safest way of doing it,
no,
in
that's
my
kind of
opinion.
crazy. I mean, nowadays I can't imagine, but yeah, maybe for like the last 8 years or so when the interest rates were zero or something.
Yeah, yeah, free money, eh?
Indeed.
Yeah,
You give it a try.
if you can just. I sometimes made the joke like, if I could borrow 100 million, I will just, for like the lowest interest rate ever, just borrow the 100 million and put it in S&P, right? Not even trade it. It's like it was really free money.
And you would have made a
Um,
good buck back in the end.
yeah, but I rather like to trade. It's the return is higher, but it's but then with my own money or other people's money in a good structure.
Indeed. So you started over the manual strategy. I mean, we talked already about so much stuff. We could go deep into every single aspect, psychology wise, legal wise, character trait wise, and what so on. But I will
We
just
can talk for hours.
exactly maybe something for later on. But maybe one of the last questions, since I know you made this transition. You started with a manual trading strategy or strategies even, and now you not only sprinkle automated strategies on top, like trading software, but are you right now like 100% automated, or is it still like a mix of manual and automated trading?
So the journey was getting consistent with those support and resistance strategies. From there, I evolved to more or less the same strategies, but then slightly enhanced with not that subjective approach. I started doing that. That generated better returns for me. And that's also what we do in New Cap, right? And then I thought, okay, let's go for automation. That's another fun story. I can quickly talk about it, but
You can tease
let's
about it. You
do
can
it.
also tease about it for the next one.
Tease about it. Well, we were looking to hire someone to trade for us, and that guy, now a friend of mine, was already automating. But instead of the coding part, he told me like I'm using this software, like the FX Dreamer software. And when I did spot that, sometimes you have just that moment, right, that you think this is super nice, super smart because this is so fast. And for me, what I figured out was okay, now I can learn to automate as well. And I was a manual trader, have been for a long time, was pretty good at it, or still am. But then I was like, I want more strategies. I want to build the portfolio because I cannot really rely anymore on one edge in the markets. I was like, I need multiple trading strategies.
Mm.
And it was a coincidence because, yeah, I was sitting there in that room trying to hire him to trade for me or with me, like building the trading floor, right? And what I didn't know was like he was trading automatically and building those systems. And then I learned that, and I really fell in love with it because over the past, well, back then 7 or 6 years, it was like I know so many more strategies. I did spot it all, right? Online on IG, YouTube, you see it, all types of strategies. I was like, oh, I can now automate everything, still manually trade, and that's what I still do. I'm so obsessed with testing a strategy, automating it quickly, like build it in a couple hours, back test it with automation, get the results, and then see, okay, this works or not. And that's the way I'm trading still. So 90% is automated, maybe even 95 to be honest, and 5% is still manual. And that's still that old strategy we still trade in community.
Yeah, super
So
interesting.
that's how I went and was introduced to automation.
Mm.
And yeah, it was a fun journey to be honest.
Yeah, I already hear like how different it is, right? Because suddenly out of nowhere you can multiply yourself. You don't have to talk about
Yeah.
like a head count. You can simply, yeah, when you automated it, it's a piece of code, and then you can tackle the next strategy to automate, right? And then you don't talk about one
Yeah.
strategy per person, or maybe some people trade 3, 4 strategies. Well, you can code up 100 of strategies, right, as a team. So that's a completely different
Yeah,
ball game then suddenly.
it's now because the Netherlands is quite small and our industry here is quite small with fund managers and all of that. I met quite a lot of fund managers, and like last year, I really figured it out for myself. It was like everyone is doing this. Everyone is just hiring manual traders or active traders, and next to them is one person or two developers sitting there automating what that trader is saying, right? Or at least that was more or less how everything was working on the trading floors. And I was like, okay, now I'm literally doing that as well, but I'm the developer and I'm the trader. So that's like, yeah, you can indeed just double yourself or triple yourself or 10 times. You don't, yeah, automation, so many benefits. So it was fun that that clicked. And that's also, again, part of that journey, right? So I would never change anything in the journey because, yeah, it's now pushing me where I am and where we are going.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful set, and I think also probably a beautiful closing note, right? Back to the point of consistency. The only consistency is the change. So do we. And that's why you also
Yeah.
transitioned towards automated trading to keep up with the industry, with the competition and the environment. I guess so much more to talk about, but I think we wrap it up, Max. What do you think?
Yeah, it should be good. Let's wrap it up for now. Everyone can, of course, say what type of topics they want, but we have such a big list. It's just fun doing this.
It is. And we have to think about like a nice routine to close it, like how some other podcasts are doing it without just shutting it down. But yeah, we'll figure out
That's
something for
good.
later on.
Just shut it down. See you next time, right?
Like it, love it. That's it.